I'm Edwin Ellis. I'm a professor at the University of Alabama in the College of Education, and I'm also a research scientist affiliate through the University of Kansas Center for Research on Learning, and I'm the author of the Make Sense Strategies Toolkit. And so in this video, what we're going to be doing is just taking a look at the software itself, and I'm going to provide you with a tour. And so I'm going to walk you through and show you what's on it, how it's organized, and how to use it, and things of that nature. Some technology requirements to use the software. Basically, if you've got a PC, you need to be using an operating system that's either Windows 7 or higher. Now, we'll work with lower versions of Windows, but not nearly as well. So really encourage you to use Windows 7 or higher. The software also works with Macs. So if you're using a Mac, you need OS X, either Snow Leopard or Lion, or something higher than that. Likewise, you're going to need two software programs that's loaded on your computer. One is Adobe Reader, not Apple Preview. In other words, this whole software is really based on the use of Adobe PDF files. And so Apple has its own PDF file reader called Apple Preview, and the software will not work correctly with it. It'll only work with Adobe Reader. So if you're a Mac user, you probably want to open Adobe Reader first before you open the software, and then you shouldn't have any trouble. The other thing you're going to need on your computer is Microsoft Word, and don't confuse that with Microsoft Works. It works great with Word, but it won't work at all with Works. So basically you need Adobe Reader and Microsoft Word. In terms of a little bit of legal stuff, everything on the Make Sense Strategies Toolkit is copyrighted material. And so there's certain things you can and cannot do, or you may or may not do. And so here's what you have permission to do. If you're an employee of the Alabama Public Schools, you have permission to use any portion of the Make Sense Strategies Toolkit when teaching students that are enrolled in the Alabama Public Schools. Likewise, you have permission to print and duplicate hard copies of any of the smart sheets or graphic organizers that are in the toolkit to use with Alabama Public School students or employees, which means if, for an example, you're an instructional leader and you're providing coaching with some teachers, you have permission to go into the software, print copies of various smart sheets that you want to use, and because you may be coaching a teacher in how to use them and that sort of thing. Likewise, you have permission to email or otherwise provide digital copies of any of the resources from the software, as long as the copies are being provided to Alabama Public School students or employees. You also have permission to post any kind of work that's generated by the software using the smart sheets or the graphic organizers on any password-controlled school intranet servers. Okay, remember, they need to be password controls, and it needs to be your local school district's intranet. You're not allowed to post stuff on the internet. So, which sort of brings us to what you may not, or what you're not allowed to do with the toolkit. First of all, you may not share any portion of the toolkit with persons that are either not public school students or employees. So it's totally limited to just those that are associated with the Alabama Public Schools, either enrolled students or employees. Thus, you're not allowed to provide digital or hard copies of any portion of the software with friends or relatives or people out of state that you may know that you think could really use some of these resources and so forth. It is copyrighted material. Finally, you're not allowed to post any work that's generated by the Make Sense Toolkit, any of the smart sheets or graphic organizers and stuff such as that on the internet. So now, having done the legal stuff, what we're going to do is sort of shift gears now and just take a look at taking a tour of the software. So I'm going to bring that up, and we'll go to full screen mode. This is the home page of the Make Sense Strategies Toolkit. And so the first thing I want to do is just kind of give you a sense of what's on here. First of all, you'll notice that there are four major categories of resources. The first are what are called organizer smart sheets. And these are generic graphic organizer type devices that focuses on the four most common ways of organizing or structuring information: hierarchic, compare and contrast, cause and effect, and sequence. Now, we'll come back to that in just a second. The next section are these. Now, these are called Essential Understandings Smart Sheets. And so these are graphic organizer-like devices that are specifically designed for specific subject areas like teaching literature or teaching writing, vocabulary, history and science, generative ideas, math. There's also a whole section on here for addressing social literacy and motivation. And there's a whole section here on a variety of resources for supporting project-based learning. So that's what that section is about. The next section down here is called Smart Planners for Teachers. And these deal with lesson planning and unit planning and access to instructions on various instructional routines and that sort of thing. Finally, there's a section on Smart Planners for Leaders. And these are various resources that instructional leaders, administrators, and things of that nature can use to help support fidelity implementation of the use of these resources. And so to give you a sense of how this looks, what I'm going to do is I'm going to come up here at hierarchic and notice, first of all, that there are several different versions of these. You have one main idea, two main ideas, three, four, etc. So I'm going to click on three main ideas. Now what will open up is a whole new page that shows a variety of different icons of different types of graphic organizers. And they all show main ideas and details in one way or another. They're all hierarchical structures. And notice we're in three main ideas, so these are all showing three main ideas and details. Now, if you look under each one of these, you'll see the word color, and you'll see the word blackline. Now, if you click on the word color, what's going to do is this is going to open up a Word document that has this graphic organizer on it. So I'm going to click on the word color, and so that graphic opens up. And first of all, I want to point out that these are interactive. So this might be a graphic organizer on the Civil War and is about, a war between the states that was fought over states' rights and to abolish or to keep slavery, etc. Down here you have places for main ideas and supporting points under each one, etc. And so because these are Word documents, you can edit these, of course, and you can change what's on the prompt to whatever you want. You can do spell check. You can change the style of the font. So, for example, if you didn't want Times, you could go to something else, such as let's say Arial Black. You can change the font color. You can basically do everything you can in a regular Word document on these, because these are Word documents that are basically text boxes. And so when you've developed one of these, what you can do is then save it to a folder. So you can use Save As. So you go up to Save As and then put it in a folder that you might be developing on something with the Civil War, that sort of thing. So that's basically how these work. I'm going to close this out. Now remember, when you're looking at Word documents, you have to close them out because we're in Word right now. We're not in Adobe Reader. Now when we close that, we go back to this page, which is basically a PDF file that has a bunch of hyperlinks on it. And so let's say we don't want the three main idea frame. Let's say we wanted we don't want the color one, although the color looks cool. What we really need is a black one, black and white one. So if you click on Blackline, the same graphic organizer opens up, only this time it's a Blackline master. Now these are also interactive, so you can type on them. The only difference is one's color and one's black and white. Okay. Now another thing I want to share with you, you may have noticed all these titles underneath these. And so, for example, under that three main idea frame that we were looking at, if you click on Shakespeare's Theater, what will open up is an example of how a teacher used that particular graphic organizer. So anytime you're looking at a sample, be sure you click on the word menu, and that will take you back. All right? So if you wanted to see a sample of, say, turtles, let's check out, that must be a science lesson there. So you can see how a different teacher used that for teaching that kind of information. And so you notice here's one for literature, here's one on science. If I click on Confederation, that's going to be one of how a history teacher used the same graphic. And so these are all generic graphic organizers that deal with main ideas and details. And so as you're clicking through the various samples, always remember to click on Menu. Okay. Here's one of the things you want to watch out for. There'll be times when you're looking at samples, like To Kill a Mockingbird, click on Menu to get back, and then you might want to click on the word color and just see what the graphic looks like. Now remember, when you're opening up the actual graphic organizer that's interactive, that's a Word document, you're no longer in PDF, you're in Microsoft Word. And so when you're actually looking at a graphic, you have to close out Word to get back. Okay? So just to recap, if you're looking at samples, click on Menu. If you're looking at an actual blank graphic organizer that's a Word document, you close that out. So that's important to keep in mind. Now, so far we've been looking at 3 main ideas. If you click on 2 main ideas, for an example, then that takes you to a bunch that are hierarchic, showing 2 main ideas, or 4 main ideas, 6 main ideas, etc. Now, all of these pages, you can always just click on the word Home to get back. So if, for an example, I'm in an 8 main idea page, I can always click on Home to get back to the Home menu. So this is very easy to navigate. Just to give you an idea of a little bit more, under the Compare and Contrast, I'm going to click on Matrix Simple. And so these are a variety of comparison matrices. 2 by 6 means you're comparing 2 things across 6 dimensions. And so I'm going to click on a sample just to give you an idea of what that looks like, comparing 2 things across these 6 dimensions. Another thing about these is that you can edit the prompts. So for example, I'm going to open this one up, and if you didn't want the word topic there, if you wanted to change that to title, you can do that. In other words, you can edit the prompts. And so right now I'm on these matrix simples. You can click up here to access the more compare and contrast, similarities and differences in terms of Venns. There are matrices with conclusions and matrices with double conclusions, and so forth. So remember, anytime you're on any of these menu pages, you can click on Home to get back to the main menu. I'm going to move down here. Now, we're not going to go through all of these because the videos that follow this one are specifically designed for your grade level and the subjects you teach. But just to give you an idea of what's here, if you teach, for example, literature, and you click on Story, Grammar, and Sequence, then what opens up are a whole series of different graphic organizers that all deal with teaching about story grammar in one form or another. Now, some of these are really simple and basic, obviously for little kids. So, for example, the balloons BME is title, setting, and characters, what happened at the beginning story, what happened in the middle, and what happened at the ending. Okay. And then here's an example of how that looks. Now, also notice that you can import pictures into these very readily. Okay, so as a general rule, as you move over to the right of these get slightly more sophisticated. Now, it's not etched in stone, but generally the further over to the right, the more advanced these are going to be. Likewise, some of these will have a second page, so that number 2 there indicates that there's another page of story, grammar, and sequence. So I'm going to click on number 2. And also remember that no matter which of these menu pages you're on, you can always click on Home to get back. Now, let's say I wasn't really interested in story grammar. What I really wanted was character analysis. So if I click on that, these are a whole series of graphic organizers that have prompts on them specifically related to analyzing a character. And again, that's going to be another page of these. So if, for example, you're a history or science teacher, you might be interested in these down here. And so these address generative ideas. So for example, you may be teaching about an important person, a famous person. So if you click on person, these are all smart visuals that have prompts on them specifically related to what's essential to understand about any famous person. And so I'm going to open one of these just to give you an idea. This is called a clear table. And so you have this famous person, and they're important because ways to describe them. What were they known for? What were they not known for? Don't confuse with what was that person's impact on the world then and now. A contemporary person this individual's like or not like because, and then down at the bottom, what would be a knowledge connection? What's this person make you think of because? So that's just an example of how there's specific prompts on here related to what's essential to understand about a famous person. Now, remember, you can change these prompts. So if you weren't interested in known for, you wanted to have some other prompt, then you can just type something different. Okay. So I'm not going to save that, but anyway, you get a sense of how this works. So if you're teaching about a famous person or an ideology in history or a theory from science or process science and so forth, all these are different smart visuals, but have prompts specifically related to this high-frequency topic. If you're a behavior therapist or you're a school counselor, there are a variety of tools down here that address some things you might be interested in. Likewise, there are a variety of different project-based learning materials. So this is just basically a brief overview of what's on the software and how you can use it. What follows now will be a series of videos that are specifically for your specific grade level and the subjects you teach. So this just kind of gives you a sense of what's on here and how to use it. The next step would be to view the various videos that follow this one, and then eventually that will lead to a type of assignment or assessment that you complete at the end of this professional development session.